Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all of my baggage droppers around the world, welcome to another episode of the Drop Your Baggage podcast, where we talk to people that are dope, that can bring you hope, and show you a technique that can help you cope. I am your host, the undefeated, undisputed self-talk engineer himself, Charles Woolfork. And if you're here, right now, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. If you're on a podcast platform, give a brother 5 stars and some feedback. Now, I am super inspired by this man right here, Joe Pettit. Now, Joe is from Charleston, South Carolina, and he worked in the schools for as a nutrition administrator for 7 years. But you know what? He found a deeper purpose and a deeper passion. Now he has his own business as Joe Pettit Inspires. He says, I help leaders see their organization and selves as a garden that's waiting to produce. He is also a father of 3 beautiful kids and a husband for 15 years, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Joe Pettit. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Charles, listen, I'm going to need you April 18th, May 5th, June 14th. I'll fly you to where I'm coming. Hey, what an introduction, bro. I was like, wait, who's coming out? Who's coming out?
You gotta do is look in the mirror, son. Look, hey, bro. Hey, but we'll go ahead and coordinate those calendars. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you, and also shout out to Ryan Cass for introducing us. And you, like last time we talked, bro, you just poured into me. You poured into my spirit. You really showed me man, I have more to work on within myself, and I have more to release within myself, and more to just believe, as far as just being worthy, and as far as knowing the abundance that I can attract and I can receive. So thank you so much for that. And you've done that for so many around the nation. So please go ahead and give us an opportunity to know who you are, Joe.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for this opportunity to be with you. Shout out to Ryan once again, a great guy, great fellow, great overall man. Listen, so as mentioned, my name is Joe Pettit. I come from a small town called Union, South Carolina, a small textile town. To give you kind of an understanding of where I was born and raised, it's a town that was built around 9 or 10 textile mills. Each one of the little villages in this county were built around textile plants. And so obviously in the 90s, all that went overseas, our economy dropped, and so a lot of people moved out. But those who stayed mainly are people that have always been there for generations, and I'm grateful for my hometown. Man, listen, I love my little hometown. I love where I came from, because I believe that small beginnings can grow into something even bigger, like a seed. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later, so stay tuned. But the thing about that is that, our little town has one 4-lane highway, a 4-lane highway that we call the 4-lane. Right? If you're getting directions, you're like, hey, over there by the 4-lane.
Yeah.
And so I grew up there. So high school football was big. You got a couple of little mom and pop restaurants, as we call it. But man, listen, I was born and raised in a little town called Buffalo. It's a little smaller community inside of Union. The youngest of 3 boys. And I'm taking you back chronological real quick, because I'm going to take you somewhere with it. I was born the youngest of 3 boys. My older brothers, Stephen and Michael, are 7 and 10 years older. My mom was a seamstress. My mom could take any type of fabric from that cotton textile plant and make curtains, make dresses, make suits, make clothes. She did it all. Phenomenal talent. I can still see my mom by that sewing machine with that pedal. She worked that pedal and was feeding that fabric through. And my mom was making clothes before making clothes was cool. Right? Now everybody's got a clothing line, right?
No, that's right.
We didn't have no clothing line. It was like, what's this on now? And, and my father was a welder. So my father worked for the same company for 48 years. I tell you that to give you a little bit of backstory about me, because don't let this gel slick back hair fool you. I grew up as an at-risk kid, because at the young age of 8 years old, my father left home. My father left my mom. And it was that moment that I realized the true heart of my mom. And, I'm grateful for every opportunity in life, and to kind of ruin the whole story, to fast forward, I've had my fathers come back into our lives. And so the beautiful part about my family right now is that we're close. We're starting to turn some new leaves in life. You know what I mean? Getting some second chances in life. But man, my mom fed me and injected me with optimism. My mom gave me every single thing that I now give to every single audience. I mean, everything I have comes literally from God, yes, but my mom is just a vessel in more ways than one. And so, man, I have to always just shout out my mom, because, man, without her, that optimism that I have, the outlook on life, to see people not by their skin color, but to see people not by where they were raised, to see people for every single bit of the human person that they are, because my mom showed me how to love people. And that's what I get to do. and they pay me for it. All I do is walk in a room, love on some people, give them a little bit of my shit, and show them how we can fill a gap.
Yeah.
And go on. And so, as you mentioned, I met my wife in 05. We got married in 07. And we have 3 children, as you mentioned. That's what I do. I have ready for this? I got a 19-year-old. I got a 17-year-old. And I got a little girl that's about to turn 4, depending on when this is aired. So my little toddler, she keeps us busy. But, man, life is good. Like,
yeah.
And we'll talk about some limiting beliefs because I still have some. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And coming from where I came from, there was a lot of different, we all use that term and hear the term generational curses. And so those types of things were passed along. But I made a decision that no longer would one curse be handed down and then handed to my children. And it's funny how when it gets personal with your own kids, you start to take things different. When you look in the mirror, and I used to look in the mirror, I was like, Joe don't matter. Mm-hmm. But when I looked at my children as a reflection of who I am and knowing that what I give them is a reflection of who I am as well, that was when I said, no more, no more. And so here I am running a speaking and training business by myself, just trying to pick up team members along the way because I see where this is going.
Yeah.
I know the value that it's adding back to organizations and individuals as themselves. And I don't say that in a vain, conceited way. Mm-hmm. I say it because I've just come into rooms and situations to love on people and give them application to be better people at all. So that's just a nutshell from 1982 when I was born to 2022. How was that for 40 years?
That was perfect. How did your mom instill this optimism into you?
Oh, man, So I tell a story. Do I got a couple of minutes to tell a story?
No, do what you do, bro.
All right, so I'll paint the picture for you like this. December 1990. I'll never forget it for as long as I live. Our house was under demolition. My father was attempting. Now, mind you, it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house out in the country. That's what we call it, right? Out in the country. And my brothers, we all shared a bedroom. My father was in the attempt of trying to expand our home to give us a little bit more living space. But mind you, in the midst of doing that, you had to tear down all of the sheetrock. So in our home, picture all these 2x4 studs that are walls that are just there so you can see through one room through the other. I can still see the sawdust from the sawing. It's still sitting in the corner. I can still see those yellow electrical wires running down the 2x4 studs. Our house was a mess. And when I look back on it, not only was our house in demolition, so was our family. Because we were rushing through this December night. I was getting ready for Christmas play practice. And maybe because I was the youngest, I was the only person that wasn't hustling and bustling around the house. Excuse me, I was the only one. Everybody else was moving slow. They knew what was about to happen. And at that moment, my father called us all to the kitchen table. And he said he needed to talk. Now, Charles, let me just give you a heads up. If anybody calls you to the table and there is no food on the table, don't go. Just don't do it. It's a setup, brother. It's a setup. But I didn't know any better. We didn't know any better. And I don't remember any conversation around the dinner table. Matter of fact, I don't remember any except for this one growing up. But this one, I'll never forget it because I can still see that kitchen table, Charles. It was pushed up against those exposed 2x4 studs. Now, my eldest brother, he kind of rebelliously was just standing up. He didn't want to sit down as my father had asked. There was only 3 chairs, so it made sense. My father is seated across the table, my middle brother to the right. And I, being the baby boy, was seated in my mom's lap. At that moment, my father would tell us because of the choices he had made outside of the home. He was packing his bags. He and my mom were getting a divorce. He was never coming back home. That moment, everything fell apart. For me as an 8-year-old boy, I looked up to my father. I remember used to sit over his shoulder and he would do search word puzzles. And I would be trying to find them, but I wouldn't say anything because I knew he didn't want me to point them out. But I was trying to always be his lookout man right from over his shoulder. Knew that was gone. So the next morning I wake up in a fog, Charles, like in a fog, just trying to wrap my brain around like what had just happened. Like, was that real? And as I tried to put my feet to the floor, I noticed that the floor was real, and I noticed that the situation the night before was real. I walk into the kitchen, they're standing. Mom. Now, mind you, my mom her eyes are red, her face is puffy. She probably hadn't slept. She probably honestly had cried the entire night. I look over to the left, and there's a box of Fruit Loops, and the box of Fruit Loops was a fine sign that something wasn't right. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but a good Southern mom's breakfast always has scrambled eggs, some grit, maybe a biscuit, maybe a piece of toast, but never cereal. That cereal was just another sign that something wasn't right, but I didn't say a word. I grabbed it. I went and sat in the same seat that I had been in the night before. As I began to pour the bowl of cereal, my mom still tells the story to this day. The cereal spilled all over it hit the floor, and in an 8-year-old temper tantrum that I threw, I just stood up and started stomping this cereal, and I looked at my mom. As I looked down at the crushed cereal to the floor, I said, this, Mom, is exactly That's what I feel like. It's all over. It's done. I'm crushed. You asked for my mom, how did she give optimism to me? You see, Charles, in that moment, we were only about 12 hours removed from the worst news that my family would ever be told. My mom had a choice to make in that moment. She said, Joseph Ray, your mama called you by your full name. You know you better listen. She said, Joseph Ray. She said, son, she said, we are going to get through this. And then she spoke 3 words. 3 words, Charles, that have stuck with me 30 plus years later. I tell it to every single organization, and I hope that everybody that listens to this today, I don't know what you're going through, but you got a choice to throw yourself on the floor like an 8-year-old Joe, or you got the choice to stand strong and make this decision, as my mom says. She said, son, she said, it's not over. That was it. It was in that moment that I realized something was different about this woman I called my mom. See, when I had somebody pour into me like that, and lead by example on that way, I said, this lady looks at life differently, and so will I.
Amen. With your mom, she gave you that amazing mindset and that amazing power that you have, but I also know that the spiritual side of you is just as powerful. How did you develop this relationship with the Lord, with God?
Well, if you're familiar with the story, the prodigal son from the Bible, that's me, okay? Raised in the church. But just because you got a gym membership don't mean you're fit. I stepped on two sets of toes just there. Somebody's fitness and somebody's faith. I'm sorry. I'm coming for people today. But just because you're raised in the church doesn't mean you really embrace it and live it. But I'm thankful because my mom set up the soil that was good for the later harvest. You see, being raised set me up to know where I needed to get back to. You can go away if you want. As the prodigal son story goes, you can take all the riches and then the next thing you know, you're over here wallowing with the pigs. I was that guy, right? And again, not to get too deep into another story, but I got into, I would go on, I would go on after high school, I would go on and go and sign a full scholarship to play to college football, and it was my dream come true. But one decision after another, you see, what I always want to do is blame other people when things didn't go my way. But that's life, right? And so what happened is I quit football my second semester, my freshman year, full ride, $36,000 a year, I quit. Real smart. No, I wasn't. And that started an 18-year drug and alcohol addiction. So I fast forward to 2015. I repeated the same father and walked out on my wife and my 2 older. Now, at that time, little Isabella wasn't even thought about. So my point of the spiritual development happened because I went and hit rock bottom on my left home. I went from like one state park to the other. I slept in my car some nights. I would rent a bedroom. Whatever it took not to have to sleep out in the streets is pretty much what I was trying to do, but I had no sense of stability. So the point of me sharing this is that in 2016, I was lying face down in the bed, and I had that same thing replaying in my mind, like, is this really what you intended life to be, Joe? And I battled those two thoughts of like, well, you should just keep doing it because nobody really cares. And then I had the other thought of my mom's same 3 words coming back and said, it's not over. No, it's going to be hard work because you literally, you made the bed. You've heard the saying, you make the bed, you sleep in it. I made the bed and I was not sleeping in it. I was lying face first, trying to pass out, and it wasn't working. And so, man, here's the thing that I know is that God welcomed me back home with open arms, clothed me, gave me all the riches, gave me the rings, gave me every single thing, and was just like this and was ready to throw a party. And for the last 5 years, 2016, 6 years, now we're in 2022, it's been nothing but a God-given party.
Amen.
So, yeah, that's it.
What are some of the biggest lessons that have led to your success as an entrepreneur?
Character. I had a coach, Shep Inspire. Shout out to Coach Shep. You can look him up. Phenomenal talent. Phenomenal talent as a speaker. And we were on day 2 of our coaching. And Shep looks at me. Now mind you, we had just met. And he's coaching me, right? You just don't expect this from your coach, but I only associate with folks that I trust their integrity on all levels. Like I want them to be a successful entrepreneur. I want them to be a successful husband, successful father, successful believer, all those pieces, right? He looked at me, and this was back in 2020, about 13 months ago, 14 months ago. And he said, Joe, what's your vice? I hear your story. That's cool. What's your vice? And what he was teaching me, he says, if you don't deal with it now, as you continue to get more money, more popularity, your vice is going to kill your business if you don't handle it. that taught me, and I've learned, because as a speaker, you spend lots of nights out on the road, lots of nights solo at a hotel, lots of nights for many of opportunity if you're tempted by that. And I believe at all times, no matter what, if you are a believer, I believe the enemy is always trying to tempt, especially those who are trying to do what's right for the Lord. And so character is what has been my most successful piece, because here's what I can do. I will never teach anything that I'm not practicing. I'm not going to make it up because it sounds cool. I am probably one of the most vulnerable, some people say to my own dismay, but I've learned that people appreciate the authenticity. So character and authenticity, which actually go hand in hand, has been the number one success so far for me as an entrepreneur.
The authenticity. How do you like express that authenticity? Like what's the magic sauce for you to be able to show up without any type of reserves?
Let me ask you this, Charles.
What's up?
Do you believe those stories that I told you earlier? Do you believe that those were factual and true?
Yeah, of course.
Why so?
The conviction behind it, the details behind it, and I believe you because of like the person that you are. I don't think that you would come up here and just make up some fugazi stuff.
Right, and you're a smart man. There's no denying that you are a smart man. You know how to read folks. You know how to really be able to pick that out. But I believe even people who don't know, anybody, a child knows a fake person. Authenticity means show up as your real self.
Yeah.
But show up. I heard a speaker, Alex Sheen, he said this one time, and it stuck with me forever. He says, you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to show up. Point being, I believe every single time that I'm supposed to show up as Joe, not fake it, not mask it, but show up as Joe and come there to deliver impact and then let the good Lord deal with the rest. So authenticity to me is just come in as your true self all the time and show up that way.
Yeah, like the things that you said can be embarrassing to someone else, whether it be about your parents' divorce or, you know, your battle with addictions. It could really be something that somebody shies away from talking about, but you embrace it. You know what I mean? You've already processed it. And now it's like, those are the things that give you your superpower, the things that are the main element of you inspiring someone in the first place. And the reason why you are who you are, you've already hit rock bottom. And now it's just about the ascension. You bouncing up to heights that you probably obviously never couldn't even imagine.
No, and here's the other piece too, is that even during the journey, right, there's still been loss. There's still struggles, man. Like I had somebody reach out the other day, my wife, and I'm not going down a path. I'm sharing this to say authenticity is that, you know, my wife was 3 months pregnant, and we found out that, you know, that she'd had a miscarriage, and we, you know, obviously we're stoked and excited, but guess what? You still got to show up.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to process the grief, but now what? Continue to show up and be real about those types of situations, because life still happens. The way Joe used to process was through chemicals. Now the way he processes is through prayer, through community, through different other types of coping, whether it's coping, I mean actual treatment, whether it's, you know, through walking or through praying or through meditation or through exercise, like whatever those things, all healthy things. I was laughing with a buddy of mine yesterday. I said, man, I really like to eat. Like, I like to eat.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe I don't typically eat fried chicken, but maybe if I ain't feeling good one day and life hits me, I might eat a piece of fried chicken and be all right with that. Hot sauce, all that. That's just me.
You seem to feel so comfortable in your own skin, and that's refreshing. And right there, to someone that was you from 10 years ago, they need to see that in order to become inspired, because they might have hit that rock bottom, and they're just looking for something, a glimpse of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel. And then boom, you come in here with your vibrancy, you know what I mean? And then you blind us all with that light that you show, right? So man, like the way that you show up, man, and like the way that you show up, you ain't got to say a word, just you being you being the example. You know, you being and you being present. That's all that we really need, man.
Well, thanks. And man, so I tell you this because when I think about 10 years ago, Joe, like I wouldn't look at myself in the mirror. I wouldn't make eye contact. Addiction does something really, really bad to you, especially when you know you have potential. Like, man, there was a lot of success for me as a student. I didn't was behind the scenes doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't look at myself in the mirror. I remember getting a picture sent to me. I don't know. It was like, man,
How many?
about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
After I, completely recovered, was starting to get on this right track of
Mm-hmm.
the business kind of starting to slowly take off. And
Mm-hmm.
it's actually one of my profile pics. It's all over. It's one I use a lot. But it was the first time that I actually looked at myself and was like, hey, bro, like, you're back. Like, let's go. Like,
yeah.
and I did. And again, hear me. I hope everybody hears me. Like, I am not an egotistical person. I am not a self-centered dude.
Nah.
But man, when you don't look at yourself in the mirror for decades, that's rough. And so I don't ever try to downplay where somebody is in their addiction. I just try to tell them, like, look, I tried everything on my own. Everything. And when I say an addiction, Charles, I'm talking about from the time I was 18 to the time I was 34. I drank every single day, 365, 1/4 a day, every day. I had one good streak where I quit for 30 days. I don't even know how I did that. I probably was using other drugs. And I'm laughing about it, but I was probably using other drugs to cope with not being on that. For real.
Yeah.
So I drank every single day, and typically most days was using some type of recreational drug. So it's hard for me to look at people, but when you hit rock bottom, and like I tried it on my own, and people ask me, well, how did you do it? Did you go to a rehab facility? I didn't. Yeah. That's my story. I let Jesus come in and just, like, here, it's already yours. Take me back. Take me where I need to be. But I will say this too, and I'm going down a different path than I intended. But the purpose of this is I want to speak to somebody who may know somebody, or you might be the person. But even more so is I like to really go eye to eye with leaders sometimes, because I was in leadership positions while all this was going down. You cannot lead someone when you don't lead yourself first. You can't. It's not going to happen. And some companies really emphasize personal development. Some look at it as like a frou-frou talk, and you're going to give me all this other stuff, and you're going to make me do goals and visions. And yeah, I'm going to make you do all that. You're doggone right.
Yeah. For
the betterment of your life.
Yeah.
But you can't lead them if you can't lead you. John Maxwell calls it the law of the lid. If I'm a 6, my team's never going to go above a 6.
Amen.
Pretty much are going to be a 5 or below. In order to get them to where they need to be, I have to raise my lid. And so for people that don't think it's a problem, cool. I can't convince you of that.
Right.
But if in your mind at some point you're like, I probably shouldn't be doing this as much, or you have regret. Jim Rohn says there's 2 types of pain. There's the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. The difference is that discipline weighs ounces and regret weighs tons. So if you, person listening, are having any little bit of regret, let me speak to you for a second. It doesn't need to be there. It's not worth it. I know it feels great. And again, I wished I could tell somebody it doesn't feel good. All the stuff that I did in that moment, it felt wonderful. That's why it hits of dopamine. But there's other ways to get it that I didn't know. To-do lists, checklists, goal sheets, exercise, run. Like, there's so many other ways to hit dopamine. But you can't perform at 110% while you're living in regret. Whether that's chemical, whether that's food, whether that's like a fitness, whether that's poor financial management. You can't be at 110% while you got trash in the fuel line.
Yeah.
The car just won't run the way it should. And so I just want to encourage people that if you feel that, just that little small tug on something, just saying I got a little bit of regret, all I'm telling you is just like we talk about the garden. The only way you're going to be able to produce the thing that your garden is supposed to produce is you must pull the weeds. They'll take over. And the weeds like the same thing that your seeds of potential do. I mean, to use the same metaphor, weeds in the garden like the rain, the sun, and the soil. So does your tomato seed. They both want the same thing.
Yeah.
Your potential and your hang-up, whatever that is, doesn't have to be chemical, whatever.
Yeah.
Your hang-up and your potential like the same thing, your money, your time, and your effort. Where will you invest? But you got to pull the weeds and then plant the seeds.
Holy cow. that is freaking powerful, man. Thank you so much. Wow. And speaking of weeds, we're going to pull a weed today on the Drop Your Baggage podcast. So here on the Drop Your Baggage podcast, we talk to people that are dope, that can bring you hope and show you a technique that can help you cope. And the technique that we use is the mental and emotional release process. It's an NLP technique. And I'm going to talk to the audience real quick. And I want to let you all know out there, like, hey, if you are carrying a weight on your shoulders of any type of limiting belief, belief or negative emotions of any sort, anxiety, depression, you go ahead and go to charleswoolfork.com. If you feel as though you've been getting in your way because of whatever has happened in the past, go to charleswoolfork.com. If you feel as though you aren't reaching your highest potential because of the negative conversation in your past, go to charleswoolfork.com. There's a form on the front sheet. Go ahead and schedule your appointment with me today. And let's go ahead and get rid of whatever negative conversation is in your mind. Let's permanently mute that. And I can't wait to be a blessing to you now. You, Joe, today.
Let's go.
Yeah.
This is what I came. Where y'all take tickets? This is what I came here for.
Yeah, you got a front row seat, cuz. Come on, you are on stage, dog. You are on stage. So today we are going to be releasing the limiting belief that I'm not good enough. So, bro, I am an expert on the limiting belief that I'm not good enough, because I say that because, like, in a fashion that I've spent so many hours not just believing it, but also in the fact that I've been spending so many hours releasing it as well. Because with me never meeting my father, I just believed that I wasn't good enough in so many different ways, and it stopped me from doing so much, like procrastinating and ruining relationships, self-sabotage, all these different things. So man, I know how terrible it is for me and how liberating it is to not believe that anymore. So for you, how has it been affecting you, my friend?
Man, there's no doubt, especially in this new era of life, with business and then providing. Listen, I tell people all the time, we talk about having faith. When you cut off your direct deposit and you go out on your own, that's a different level of faith. And I also didn't realize it. So this is what's going to be very beneficial as people get to watch in on this, how it's been holding me back. Entrepreneurship is a lonely island. Nobody is coming to visit you, hardly. Now, you know what I mean? The peaks are when I get to go on stage, I'm around people, but the things that's been holding me back the most in that self-limiting, style of belief. And again, we kind of spoke about this before as well. It's like, I believe it all stemmed back from my father, right? Just like, that's where it truly stemmed from. And so with that happening, it just kept lingering. And what I've noticed is that I run away from challenges that I believe I can't do, when truly a lot of them I should run towards. So it's been holding me up, because I believe to go from, I believe what it's going to help me do is to have more quality time with my wife and family. I believe it's going to allow me to create more income for my family. I believe it's going to be able to create space and to create visions that are going to come to life so that we can help other people turn that new leaf and get a second chance in life. If Joe, I believe the world, stay with me, I believe the world is waiting on me to release this so that I can truly walk more into the gift that God has given me, to go back out and expand the kingdom.
Yo, let's go layers deep into this. Let's say this. How has your relationship with the creator been affected because of this limiting belief?
It's hard for me to answer without telling this very quickly. It's like,
please, bro.
I used to just try to pardon with, not pardon, make deals with God. You ever try to make deals with God?
Oh yeah.
We have a thing in my family, like, if you say something real dumb, like a man to another guy, just be like, they'll thump you in your head. Like, I feel like guys are ready to thump me in the head. Like, come on, man. Like, for real, But I remember, when I was still for the district, I'm like, all right, God, if this is really what you wanted me to do, then send me somebody. I need to get it, right? I need proof from God.
Yeah.
As if all of that I have around me is not proof. Silly Joe. And he'd give it, because in my ignorance, he would still give it. Right? Because he still loves me. And then 2 weeks later, that self-limited doubt would come back in. I'm like, that wasn't for real. That was for real, but that ain't enough. Like, I don't know if that's going to be able to do it. I go right back to the plea board. So it has hindered my relationship with God, because here's the thing that I know, Charles. I'm supposed to also be speaking in faith-based arenas. But because Joe doesn't have the seminary, because he doesn't have all the theologian, speak, it's holding me back, because Joe won't step on a stage into trusting that the Spirit's going to fill me and let it overflow into the audience. That's how I'm holding back the creator from doing what he's supposed to be doing in my life.
Yo, that's deep, yo. That's deep. I'm sorry. True. It's shocking. It's so shocking. It makes me want to cry. It makes me want to cry because, not only because of what you just said, but also because of how freeing it's going to be. I don't see who you are now. I see you in 30 minutes from now, after that's gone. That's the beautiful part. So with all that, I asked my guests, how much money do you think you've left on the table because of this limiting belief?
Man, I don't even know. I don't even know how to guess a dollar amount, but I know an impact amount for the kingdom.
Yes. How much impact do you think you've not had?
Thousands,
Yeah.
thousands, thousands, and thousands of souls
Yeah.
are waiting to be connected through my
Hmm.
experiences to fill a gap, to walk them back to the king or to walk them to the king for the first time.
Yo.
Thousands.
Yo.
I believe it.
That's deep. That's deep. Let's get this. Let's get rid of this, yo. Let's get rid of this right now. All right. So in
You
order
might
for
have
you,
some blood on your hands if we don't get rid of this child. That's all I'm saying.
no, right? That's if you were gonna come after me. Hey, and all right. In order for you to have a profound experience, you got to do three things. Number one, you got to use your imagination. Number two, you got to follow directions just like you follow a good recipe or Google Maps. And number three, you got to trust the process. Know that I'm your guide and I'll be leading you through this easily and effortlessly. And I come from a place of love and high vibration. Now, a few more things. Number one, we are going to be visiting different events in your life in order to have some releases. Every single event that you go to is a trigger that you're releasing. So every single event that you go to, it's potentially that limiting belief of I'm not good enough never popping into your head anymore. It's a trigger that's being released. It's every single event is a major breakthrough. It's like a Tony Robbins weekend in minute. You understand? Go to as many events as possible, and I'll lead you through that. And also, in order for you to have the most profound breakthrough, you have to see from everybody's perspective. You have to have empathy and compassion and see from everybody's perspective in every single event. And I'll lead you through that as well. Let's get it. Let's create your timeline. With your timeline, your past can be to your left, to your right, or behind you. If you were to know, where's your past?
To the left.
Where's your future?
To the right.
Perfect. That's just like mine. It's identical. Let's get it. Let's begin the process. Is it all right with your unconscious mind for you to release this limiting belief that I'm not good enough today and for you to be aware of it consciously?
Yes.
What is the root cause of this problem? The first event, which when disconnected, that will cause this problem to disappear. If you were to know, when was the first time that you felt as though I'm not good enough from the ages of birth to 7?
I think that and it was that moment of the event that I showed, I was 8, but my memory's just not that good, to be honest. That's when I feel like at that moment I wasn't good enough.
Let's take that event right there. That's good. No worries. All right. And with that, you remember everything I said from earlier. You can go ahead and close your eyes and relax and let me know when you're ready for the process to drop your baggage.
Let's do it.
All right. Now, just keep your eyes closed until I ask you to open them later. And just imagine floating up above yourself right here, right now, in this very moment, and see yourself from a third person point of view, like a fly on the wall. See your green shirt and your jacket and your amazing background with your slick back hair and the screen in front of you. Let me know when you can see yourself.
See it.
Awesome. Now, just imagine floating up above your timeline and float to the left into the past and float deeper and deeper and deeper into the past. Above that first event in which you felt that limiting belief that I'm not good enough when you were just a little kid, and hover over that event, seeing that whole event from a third person point of view, like a fly on the wall, to your parents and your whole family. Let me know when you can see that whole event.
Yeah.
Okay, now just stay right there, hovering over the event, seeing it from a third person point of view, and just ask your unconscious mind what it needs to learn from the event, the learning of which will allow you to let go of the emotions easily and effortlessly. Your unconscious mind can preserve the learnings, so that if you need them in the future, they'll be there. Just tell your unconscious mind to preserve the learning. This is an exercise of forgiveness and acceptance. Forgiveness for yourself and others, and acceptance of yourself and others. Who do you have to forgive? What do you have to accept? Who do you have to accept? Be sure to see from everybody's perspective inside of the event and have empathy and compassion for everyone. And as you do so, focus your attention upon how hurt people hurt people. We're all doing the best that we can with the resources and consciousness that we have. We can't control anyone else's actions, but we can control our response. We can grow stronger and wiser and learn from other people's actions and mistakes. Other people's actions have nothing to do with you. It's only a reflection of their baggage and whatever they're going through at the time. And we're better people than we were when those events occurred. You're a better person than you were when those events occurred. What is something positive and empowering you can tell yourself as that little boy and everyone else involved in the event with the consciousness that you have today that would allow the emotions to evaporate like water on the concrete on a hot summer day? And as you preserve these learnings, the emotions are starting to dissipate more and more until they're all gone. Just let me know when they're all gone. Awesome. And with your eyes closed and you observing the event, tell me, what did you learn from the event?
That in that moment, my parents were doing the best of what they had, and that I just happened to be a bystander, not the actual one that it was targeted towards.
That's right. Tell me, what did you have to tell your father?
That I understood what was happening. And by understanding, in that same breath, that I still love him.
Mm-hmm. What is something that you can take with you into the future to make you a better person?
To be able to see where folks are actually coming from, and not just the actions of that specific moment.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, it helps me to, as moving forward, to just be able to embrace and help others get to a healthier place.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Awesome. Great job. Now, just imagine floating up above your timeline and floating to the left, into the past, and float deeper and deeper and deeper into the past above the dinosaurs. Let me know when you're above the dinosaurs.
Okay.
Awesome. Now, as you're above the dinosaurs, just imagine floating into space. Float deeper and deeper and deeper into space to where space and the atmosphere connects. And imagine your timeline is the size of a fingernail. Let me know when you're there.
There.
Awesome. Now, just imagine floating there in space, weightless, and ask yourself now, where are the emotions? Tell me, are they there or have they disappeared now?
Disappeared.
Awesome. Now, just imagine floating down inside the event, seeing through your own eyes as a little boy and check on the emotions. Tell me, are they there or have they disappeared now?
Disappeared.
Awesome. Float back above the dinosaurs and then float into space to where space and the atmosphere connects. Let me know when you're there.
There.
All right, listen closely. Float very, very high above your timeline, above each and every event in which you felt as though I'm not good enough, from birth until now, in chronological order. Don't skip one event that has a charge on it. Preserve the learnings and let go of that limiting belief that I'm not good enough all the way back to now. And don't come back to now until that limiting belief is all gone. Go, just like you did with that first event. Float above every event in which you felt as though I'm not good enough, from birth until now. Take your time. Go to as many events as possible. Every event is a major breakthrough. Every event is a trigger that you're releasing. And just like you did with that first event, preserve the learnings and let go of that limiting belief that I'm not good enough all the way back to now. And as you preserve these learnings, the emotions are starting to dissipate more and more until they're all gone. Just let me know when they're all gone.
Okay.
Awesome. Float down into your body and open your eyes when you're ready. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. There's a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let you sit in that for a second. Yeah.
It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be able to process, release,
Mm-hmm.
and see it in a different light.
Mm.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Mm-hmm. What lights helped you, or what perspectives helped you mostly in releasing and processing?
I just think it's that it was the narrative that I always told myself
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't the case. You know, it's something that was fabricated.
Mm-hmm.
And so just as quickly as it fabricated, so too can we reverse it.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you need to know? What was the biggest revelations for you? What was the mindset, or what was the learnings that you learned that helped you release that limiting belief that I'm not good enough, or have this release?
I think that just the thought of like looking at it from an out of body experience, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to see other perspectives when you're only looking through your eyes.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
I know it does. I know it does to you, but it's just it's just the fact of looking at it from outside back, and then when you try to think about it from the size of universe all the way back to, it's a different feel. It's a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of things that over time I stacked one lie on top of another lie.
Mm-hmm. And those lies can accumulate fast too. One decision after another, after another, after another. And your mind is going, oh, see, here's more evidence that you're not good enough, and more evidence, and more evidence, and more evidence. Well, when there's like your full-on perspective that I'm not good enough.
Yeah. So I think that the beautiful part about it all, of processing it, Charles, is just the fact of being able to walk through and just say, you know, I am good enough. because again, what we look for, we're going to find. So let's move forward with looking at it from the sense of I am good enough. And people do value that when you make a mistake, it doesn't make you a less of a person. It's just a mistake.
So you gave, a word that usually comes up for this exercise is grace. Give yourself a bit more grace. You know what I mean? For the things that happened in the past and the way that you felt in the past as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, just the whole idea of, who's the only person that said that you're not good enough was Joe.
Boom.
So.
Boom.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure. It seemed like it kind of seems like a hard pill to swallow for you.
I mean, it isn't as much about a hard pill to swallow as much as going back and hovering over the events.
Yeah. It's like seeing that. It's like, man, I've been in my head this whole time.
Right. Because again, what we're doing is hurt people hurt. And so unfortunately, that's a continued cycle. And so not seeing it as personal, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, yeah. So like it's not about you.
No, it's not about me. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just what these folks have done. I think that's probably the hardest, not hard to swallow, just to my mind forgets a lot of stuff. It's a good thing and a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I said, like, for real, like from like up to 8, I might can remember about 2 or 3 events.
So you're not taking things as personally. It seems like that's a nice lesson from it all.
No doubt. Like, no doubt. But I also believe that piece is still attached to not good enough. It's still attached to the piece of feeling like you need to overcompensate to prove that you are good enough. Don't need to do all that.
Right? I know, right? I mean, Brad, the best part about spirituality, I mean, especially as a Christian, you know what I mean? Like my favorite stories are of Elohim. You know what I mean? Like Elohim, the Abraham, Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's my stuff, right? I love that. It's David, Solomon, like even like Elohim is just so powerful. So for him to always have been there to show you that you're worthy, to show you that you're good enough, to show you that you always had everything. A Christian, in fact, that I just talked to said, look what you created out of nothing. Now think of the things that you can create with what you have. I was just like, yo, God, he gave us everything that we need, and we don't ever need much. All he gave Abraham was a vision. Yeah,
the key is that we have to release these pieces so that truly, because all that is the enemy's tactic to keep us bound from truly releasing what the Creator created us to do. We can't walk in our gifts if we doubt, because I had a teenager a couple of months back ask me, he said, I'm really having a struggle. He's like, because I'm having these thoughts in my head, and these thoughts are good thoughts. And I was like, what do you mean by good thoughts? And he was telling me a little bit about the hurting and stuff. And he says, I just don't know how, if I'm hearing from the enemy, if I'm hearing from Jesus. Like, he's like, I'm really confused about Jesus or the enemy. And I was like, well, listen, here's the thing. If it's to harm yourself, let me help you. That's not God.
Yeah.
So I want you to be clear on how to combat it. And so with that being said, I brought that up to say this, is that the limiting beliefs is just another lie, as the Bible says, is that, all his whole part is to come in and steal, kill, and destroy. And the prince of lies, And so if Joe walks around believing he's not good enough,
Yeah.
then that's a reflection on the Father. Just like if I walk around have what it takes, or I don't have enough, or whatever the case, that's a reflection back on that's a reflection back on my own parents here on earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sorry if my internet connection got a little splotchy. I noticed the sign.
No worries.
Sorry, podcasters. Welcome to the real world. But so, anyways, not to get too deep off of that, but the key for us and for me, and I appreciate this exercise, because the more I stay in a restrained state, the more I become a slave to the lies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Say that again. The more I'm in a restrained state, the more I stay victim to a slave of lies. It means I can't be free to create what the Creator gave me to use.
And it's like taking that whole piece of it's not about you into play again, you know, like with Christianity, it's like the piece about the devil always up to no good. So it's not about you. It's just about the enemy, you know what I mean, doing his thing. It's not about you.
Correct. Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Oh, dude, I can't wait. I can't wait to walk in
it. Yeah.
For real.
It seems like your whole energy is shifted.
Well, here's the beautiful part about the timing of it all, right?
Yeah, what's up?
Is that in about, again, don't know when this will be aired, but from the time we're recording this,
Mm-hmm.
in about 3 weeks, I actually get an opportunity. Now, I'm gonna tie a couple of different knots back to you. So I'm actually going to be delivering a message in 3 weeks that has to do. It's going to be from a faith-based sense.
Okay.
This YMCA in the upstate of South Carolina does like for 42 years they've been doing this annual breakfast, brings in all the students over. So we're going to have several hundred students, business leaders, civic leaders. But I actually get to share my walk and my spiritual development with Christ, and how those things have been able to help me as a man.
Yeah.
Transform from being a boy at 34 to being a man at 39. Notice I said boy at 34.
Touche.
So with that being said, again in my head of, well, it needs to be this way. What about this way? No, like, just do what you know you've been called to do. Period. Period. So, and here's the irony behind it. Here's irony.
Yeah.
Shep, my coach, told me to reach out to this organization because he said, "Hey, look, they do this every year. It's an annual breakfast. I believe you'd be good for it."
Yeah.
So it was on my radar. The guy who just took over, the guy before him has been there for 40 years. It's been this guy's baby forever. He retired. New guy comes in. Okay.
Yeah.
New guy is the same gentleman who came into my living room when I was a high school senior and recruited me to go sign and play college football.
Yo.
Listen to me. Who I then show up at the college my freshman year, ready for practices, and I'm like, "Yo, Coach Nichols around?" They're like, "Nah, bro. Like he left. He went somewhere else." Right? I was hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what males did, and I put that on him.
Ooh.
That's what I was used to males doing. I was used to when males didn't communicate and males left, males said, "Bump Joe, you're not good enough. I'm gonna keep moving." So the full circle of this is I just stopped in. I just dropped in on him. Hadn't seen him in 20 years, and because I had to move forward.
Yeah.
So the full circle of this is he's given me the first true opportunity. He says you walked in at the right time. He said, because I was in the middle of preparing of who we were going to get for speakers.
That's deep.
Coach Nichols, if you're watching this, I was mad for a second. You know what I mean? But here's the piece, and this is part of the lesson that I'm going to be teaching to them, is we have to stop saying that it's them, that it's their fault, that it's someone else's fault. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. On you. Life's going to deal you cards.
Yeah.
But I can promise you, if you go through life saying, "Oh, it's them, it's their fault," it's not helpful. So, point of it all is that I get to go back and deliver this message. He provided it. God provided it. Coach Nichols happens to be in the right opportunity. I get to take this different belief when I walk in. So now in my mind, as I'm processing this, I'm already in the room delivering this sermon, this message, with a conviction that not only am I good enough, but I can pour back into them to let them know that they're good enough.
Ooh.
Because if there's something that all people struggle with, but especially teenagers, is the feeling of not good enough.
Yeah.
So I had to tell that story because this event's more than just it. A lot of people, they don't get it. Excuse me, but for me, it's a story inside of an event, and I'm excited. So with that being said, I want to need for you to come to South Carolina. Just the way you did earlier.
You said March, right? Bruh, hey, that's wow. What a turn of events. I didn't expect that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
In weeks. It's my next in-person gig. Yep, just in Yep. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. The universe unfolds perfectly, or as they say, God works in mysterious ways.
It's true.
Yo, thank you so much. Oh, hey, wait. We got more. So I gotta ask you just a little bit more. Do you smell biscuits? Okay, I asked that to get your mind off the meditation. Can you remember a time in the past in which you used to feel as though I'm not good enough? And see if you can still feel that old emotion, or you might find that you cannot.
No.
All right, I want you to go out into the future. Just imagine going out into the future to an unspecified time in the future in which, if the same thing would have happened in the past, you would have felt as though I'm not good enough. But it's the future now. So see if you can find that old emotion, or you may find that you cannot.
As I'm thinking about that same event occurring, I know that reaction is not going to be there.
Congratulations, you are officially a baggage dropper.
Drop them bags, let's get them other bags.
I know that's right. Hey, great job today, Joe. Good job, bro. Man. Yes, of course, bro. So let's go ahead, man, wrap this up. But before we do, please give the audience one more word of wisdom.
Listen, here's the thing about it. What most people need to understand, for one, it's not over. Whatever you think you're up against it. I'm not going to deny it. But what I want you to understand is that you're not finished.
Yeah.
I was sharing that same message with somebody who had just lost his daughter. He says, Joe, if I had not heard that message, I was ready to take my own life. I just don't feel like I need to be living. But when you told me that and I heard your words, he says, I really, really believe that it's not over. And I said, man, that's the point. Because what I do believe is that people have so much more purpose. Truly dig a little bit deeper, like a gardener would down in the soil.
Mm-hmm.
If they'll get down a little bit deeper, that even the things that have been wasted in the past decompose and process some of the greatest nutrients for life to produce what it's supposed to produce. If folks would just get it, that it's not over, get back out into the game, get back out into the field, so to speak, start working. Because what can be produced from the smallest beginning, like a seed, can produce something that you'll never dream possible. But you got to be willing to remember, A, it's not over, but B, it's not them, and it is time to go and produce it.
Amen. All right. Joe, thank you so much again for showing up for your divine appointment.
Bro, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you all out there for your attention and your support. If you all are like listening to this or watching, I just love you all so much. And also, if you're here, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. And if you're on a podcast platform, give a brother 5 stars and some feedback as well. Right here on the Drop Your Baggage podcast, where we talk to people that are dope, that can bring you hope and show you a technique that can help you cope. I am your host, the self-talk engineer, Charles Woolfork, with my special guest, Joe Pettit. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself and take care of one another. Peace.